Hello coders, good afternoon. Welcome to episode 158 of the How to Code Well podcast. I hope that's correct number. It is Thursday the 26th of May and we are live. Haven't done this in a while. I am being live tonight because I was planning to do this pre-recorded, but the day has ran away with me and I would have recorded this a couple of evenings ago, but I've just been so busy, so I thought I would jump on live and get this done. It sounds like I'm rushing through it. I've had one of those days today where things have just fallen over, and I've had to pick things up and then realize that other things have fallen over, and I've had to pick those up as well. And yes, before you know it, you look up from your code and it's 3 hours have passed. And yes, I was hoping also to go to the gym this evening. And that was a plan if I had this pre-recorded, but that never happened. So here I am. Woe is me. Tonight, I want to talk about misconceptions. There's been some really horrendous, and I'm not saying that just because I'm hungry and I'm a bit bitey and hangry, but there has been some horrendous tweets floating around. And I always get a little bit worried when people with large followers tweet these things. This is regarding women in code and mothers in particular. And I thought, what better way to dispel a couple of myths for software development? The thing is, when you've got a large following, you've got I don't want to be an opponent of free speech, but the thing is, when you have a large following of people, you have to take into consideration what impact you have, especially when you're in the educational scene and you are influencing younger minds that have entered this industry, and I would hate to think that a certain opinion prevents someone from getting into the industry. So I'm not going to shed any light on the tweets. You can find those all out. I am not wanting to give any kind of platform, any further reach to that platform. But what I'm going to do is come up. I've got 5 misconceptions. I've actually got 7 misconceptions here, but 5, whatever, around the industry. I've been in this industry for over 20 years, and I've worked with some incredibly talented people who have taught me a thing or two. I have discovered a lot of things out my own, obviously, on both the coding side, but also in the social aspect of coding as well. And there's some things in here we'll talk about. I suppose, though, as tradition goes, we should talk about the changelog before we get into these misconceptions. This week has been, like I said, it's been super busy, but I was able to do some stuff over the weekend. And what we've managed to do, I think I talked about the whole Cypress, I was going to call it Cypress end-to-end testing. So that's now working really well. And I think I mentioned last time about the speed in which it was getting really slow because it was running in a different environment. Now running this in the proper environment, test environment, and it's working really fast. Here I'm talking about the How to Code Well site. So that's still in development. That's going really well. And on Tuesday, we did the PHP registration course live here on YouTube, and that was really good as well. And I've got it to a point where we have some PHP tests. I actually did a little bit. I was a bit naughty, and I actually did a little bit of this, quite a bit of this actually, yesterday evening and Wednesday evening, and I managed to get some integration tests because it has a database and some unit tests together. So I'm looking forward to showing you all that on Tuesday and documenting that as well, because I think we're coming to a point where we can start actually documenting and refactoring some of the code for this course. So that's really good. And yes, that's pretty much it, to be honest. The rest of the time that I spend is either with the dogs or with the clients. So so that's that. So there'll be another stream coming out next Tuesday where we're going to be working on the PHP registration course, more with that. So that's really good. Okay, so let's get into this misconceptions then. This is something I'm sure I've talked about before, but I think that it needs to be repeated, some of these anyway. Well, all of them, to be fair, especially if you're new to this industry, because like I said, there are some bad actors out there who will try and divide the industry, the tech community, with their really bad takes on things. And that drives them followers, because outrage encourages engagement. Engagement encourages followers to join or to block. You know, that's now becoming a trophy. You know, such and such has blocked me. That's a, you know, hey, look at me. And I think that really my following isn't huge at all, right? But I'm willing to shine a light over some of these silly opinions that people have. And again, I don't want to shoot down those. I don't want to poo-poo free speech at all. But the thing is, when you have been playing in this sandpit of YouTube for a while, you can spot the people who are trying to poke the bear and encourage engagement to give them traction on the platforms that they're on. And then they come out and promote their courses, and then they come out and promote their, whatever it is that they're charging their zombie followers, right? So here we go. Number one, you have to code every day to get better at it. No, that is not the case one bit. There are many days where I don't actually do any coding. In fact, this a recent client that I've had, there has been a large period where I haven't actually done any coding for them, and it's mostly analysis. So I'm looking at different upgrade paths for various packages, making sure things are up to date and working out the dependency trees that, I need to upgrade this thing, so I need to upgrade that thing. There's also documentation as well. So documenting from a technical aspect, the application, as well as documenting from a non-technical aspect. So sort of writing change logs, writing, sort of change requests in a sort of a non-PRE kind of way, or tutorial, or sort of, or not tutorial, or documentation to teach other people who are sort of touching the code base, but not actually actively coders. So say, for instance, these could be managers. If something has happened and you need to document the change, but you do that in a non-codey way so they can grasp it, maybe some screenshots. That's what I'm trying to say here. Like if it's a content management system and some of these screens have changed, then you would need to create that, but word that in a way that they will be able to appreciate. So again, that isn't code, right? That's documenting the system. There's a lot of this that you do, but also specifically for juniors, people coming into the industry, the fact that you shouldn't have to code every single day, you get burnt out, right, if you do that. And I find that I'm thinking about the code when I'm not actually coding. So I've mentioned this many times, like just, go for a walk, mow the lawn, whatever, crunch in the back of your mind the issue, the bug, the thing, the architectural problem that you're trying to deal with whilst you're doing another mundane task. And then you come back to the code nice and refreshed. Sometimes that can take a day. Sometimes that can take 2 days. Sometimes I find that when I come back from a holiday, I am more productive because I'm less burnt out. So you don't have to code every day. That's the whole point. You don't have to code every day. Number two, which is kind of, goes into this whole Twitter issue The women cannot code. Okay, that's number 2. So that's, and I'm a bit sickened as to how many people have this opinion, because this is just simply not true. I've worked with some amazing women who code, and mothers, and people who have disabilities, both women and obviously non-women, and they are amazing. So don't tell me at all that women can't code. I've had so many awesome people on the podcast, guests on the podcast, and they are so inspiring, so inspiring. So this is, I don't even know why I have to say this. This is ridiculous. So yes, women can code, and they can code better than men in some cases. So get that silly thought out of your head. Okay, so number 3, managers are sellouts who can't code. Okay, this is a interesting one, because often when you get into the industry, when you've been in there for a while, you get this choice, this sort of fork in the road. Do you become a manager and manage other developers, or do you still be a developer? And I had this. I was actually asked this when I was a full-time dev. Which way do you want to go? Which direction do you want to go down in? And I had this. I certainly don't think that managers are sellouts. That, yes, there's managers who are more managerial than they are coders, and I guess that's kind of their remit, right? And so I guess over time they become less in tune with how the code works. They become, the way I put it at the time was, I would rather be in the engine room than be on top deck, steering the ship. I would be rather in the engine room. So I don't believe at all that you've got to a point in your career where you've faked it all the way up to the point where you've been given a managerial position and then you're a manager. Sometimes coders are really good managers, really, really good managers. And actually, I've worked with some really good managers who were coders beforehand, and you get that when you talk to them. You get the glimpse of, hang on a minute, how many years have you been a coder for? Because they say things. Or when they're in a meeting full of other coders, they don't just look completely glazed over in their eyes. Like, what are you talking about? They have a comprehension as to what it is that these coders are talking about. And they're able to weed out some of the bad eggs in that as well. Because, sometimes there are cases where some coders may try and say things that make the thing sound better than it actually is, just because that's what the manager wants to hear. But if the manager can peel back the onion and work out who's doing that, because they have an experience of being a coder before, they can be able to find out those telltale signs, which is awesome. So no, managers are not sellouts who can't code. Managers are awesome. Okay, well, not all managers, obviously, but a lot of managers are. Okay, so moving on. Number 4 is you can't get into this industry when you're old. Now, I can't say this from experience, because I got into this industry when I got out of school, essentially, because I got out of high school. And I did two courses, a BTEC and a HND, and then I went on to do my degree. All 3 of those courses had some element of programming involved. And then the day after I left university, I went straight into the industry and I worked in a web development agency. So I can't really say, because this was back in the early 2000s. So I can't really say, or beyond that, or earlier than that. So I can't really say that is the case here. So for me, at least. However, I have spoken to, and on this podcast, many people who have got into the industry in their older years. So I don't think that it is an issue. And actually, I think that the older people who are older than you, actually bring something to the table that you can't. So they have experience in other things. And because they are of a particular age, they may have had other careers doing completely different things and had completely different experiences, but they can bring some of those experiences to the coding industry. It might not be a one-to-one transferable skill, but they have that depth of knowledge that I will never have because I've never had a different career. So, I mean, there are times where I think, well, hang on a minute, perhaps I wouldn't mind doing something else. They have had that. So, and like I said, I am aware of, I know of people who've been in this industry and they got into this industry when they were older than I am, and they're learning things far quicker than me. And yes, so I will have no problem working with those people either, because it doesn't really matter, in my opinion. You know what you know, right? And your experience is something that you can take with you to wherever you go. Okay, so number 5 is testing is only for developers who have time to test. So this is something that I initially kind of thought when I started testing ages ago, like when I started testing, because it was like, oh my God, this is taking so long. Only developers who have like working in enterprise companies in the enterprise space, who have literally teams and departments full of developers working on this one single application. They must have all the time in the world, and therefore they must have time to test. And therefore the people telling you that you need to test your code come from these industries because they have time that I don't have. And that's the way my head was when I started out testing. In fact, the weird thing is that if you flip it on its head, and if you do it from testing first, say in a sort of a, dare I say, a TDD approach, that's obviously a learning curve, right? So it's going to take you time to get to that point where you're actually doing TDD. But when you actually do TDD, in some cases, I'm not going to say in all cases, in some cases, it actually speeds up development. Why? Well, because you know that you have tests to back up your work, your workings out, your findings. And therefore you know that deployment is going to be relatively safe. So you've actually saved time in the future because you've captured potential bugs during development. And something I've said, I think I've said this in a talk once, I can't remember, but something I'm sure I've said this before. It costs you more in time and in money and in reputation if you catch the bug in production over catching the bug in development, right? Because obviously if there's a bug in production that you could have caught in development and it's costing you money because perhaps the checkout page doesn't work because of this silly bug, then you're going to lose out on sales. You're going to lose out on a developer because they need to actually stop what they're doing to fix this thing, right? So you're going to lose out on time. You're going to lose out on money. You're going to lose out on reputation. Maybe that customer who's hit that issue has to go somewhere else. So no, testing isn't only for developers who have time to test. Testing is for everybody, and testing should be something, in my opinion now, it should be something that needs to be taught via the courses. Now, this is something that I'm trying to do in the PHP logging course and the PHP registration course, is actually teach you how to test the code. So we try and do it in a, I'm going to loosey-goosey say TDD, because it's not really TDD, because what happens is when I come up with the course, I need to practice how I got to this particular function and refactor it to the point that I'm happy with it. That's not always in TDD. TDD is obviously writing the code, writing the test first, and then refactoring it. When I have an idea, sometimes I just want to throw it on the IDE and see what sticks, especially when I'm thinking about new architectures and stuff. But as I've mentioned before, it's a good idea to have a line in the sand to say, okay, wow, we have this I don't want to use the word MVP, the term MVP, but we have this concept, right? And it kind of works. It's not production ready by a long shot, and it needs to be refactored, but let's take it, let's now draw a line in the sand to say, let's test what we've done before we do anything else. So I've done that line in the sand with the PHP registration course. We have basically built a little framework for connecting to the database, and in the future streams what we're going to do is have I'm going to write some, I haven't thought of how to do this yet, so again this is just this will be a concept, but in the future I'm going to be building our own routing system and our own controllers and our own views. I'm not using any frameworks, so this is just going to be pure PHP. So this course will teach you how to do that. And I sometimes, when I come up with these concepts, I find it easier to not test and just throw code on the page. But always in the knowledge that there needs to be a line in the sand once I'm kind of reasonably happy and I've got a feel for what it is that I want to try and achieve, to actually say, okay, before we do anything else, let's test what we've got and then let's refactor. So that's kind of my jump on. I haven't got to the point yet in my career where I'm doing full TDD from the get-go. I may have done a couple of that around the How to Code Well stuff ish on the actual website, but I put my hand up and say that in this industry I rarely do TDD, which is a shame because I really dig TDD. I kind of understand why it's a good idea, and it's a shame that not many people enforce TDD. The higher up I've got in my career, the more I've noticed testing is more of a requirement, which is great, right? However, TDD is something that is less so in my experience. It could be completely different for you, but yeah, going back to the point, testing is only for developers who have time to test. No, it's not. It's for everybody. It's for everybody. And the reason why I'm testing, right? Let's bring it back to why I'm testing. Why I'm testing the courses and teaching you how to test the courses is actually, there's a selfish reason, because I want to ensure that in 3 years' time, 5 years' time, 10 years' time, you get the idea, those courses still work. So I want to make sure that there is testing back up the course. And I want to ensure that when I upgrade the course and upgrade any packages that relate to this course, the course works, right? I don't want people emailing me saying, I've just installed this and, you know, I'm now running on PHP 9, not PHP 8, and it doesn't work. So I actually have with thanks to the work I did the other evening, I have the PHP registration course now hitting a GitLab runner whenever I commit and push to a specific branch. Again, I'll show you all of this on the next stream. Okay, so where have I got? Okay, number 6. So we've already passed 5. Boom. Number 6. The fastest coder is the best coder. Nope. I am incredibly slow. I know, and I've paired with people who are just lightning quick, and it's annoying because it's like it's frustrating. It is like watching a video, right, where you just see someone just write code just like it's dripping out of their fingers, and yeah, I can't do that. I really can't do that. However, saying that, I'm not the best coder at all. I am not the best coder by a long shot. I'm better than I was perhaps last year, but I'm nowhere near where I would like to be. And there's lots of things that I'm putting in place to improve my skill set. But this point in particular is about getting to the solution. If you can get to the solution the quickest, that's great. That's wonderful that you've got there. However, there is a point to be made for the people who take time and methodically document and consider the alternatives. The thing is, sometimes, well, in most of the cases actually, you can come up with a solution. You can come up with multiple solutions for one problem, right? And each solution will have a trade-off. So you might be able to code it really quickly because it's maybe, in your opinion, a quick thing to do. However, those who are slower than you may have actually considered other alternatives and have been able to come up with something different because of the things that they've been thinking about whilst they've been coding. The things that you haven't been considering because you just want to get to the end goal as quick as possible. Now, obviously, if there's a P1 going on and, there is an issue on the live site and it's all catching fire and you need to put out some stuff, yes, speed is a good thing. However, when it comes to creating, say, some new architecture, a new feature, it's always good to have a period of time where you are slow, steady, methodical. You're thinking about the various implications, the impacts. You're thinking about the user. You're thinking about the various different actors on this system. It's not always the fastest person gets the treat. It's not always that case. The fastest coder is not always the best coder. All right. It's not a race. It's not a race. Number 7. Okay. More people working on a project means that the project will be done faster. This is the there is a particular rule, isn't there? There's what is it? The man month. What is that? I forget. There is a saying, isn't there? There's also another saying that I've just thought about, and that is that 9 women can't have a baby in 1 month. But there is another one around months. Anyway, this basically means that there is sometimes when you get too many people involved, it can actually slow down the process. Sometimes just having 2 people on something is more than enough. Sometimes just having 1 person on it is more than enough. Going back to the manager's point of view, or whoever is the leader in the team, it is knowing who to put the people with, so they're not just screwing about and they are working off themselves. They are leaning on each other's strengths as best as possible. When you're bringing in a lot more people into the team, you have to go through all sorts of things in order to bring everybody up to speed, right? There's also more danger for human error when you've got more people on the team, or I say more people on the team, it could just be more people working on a particular bug or an issue. If you've got more people working on the one thing, then that can be, from a technical standpoint, that can be quite awkward because, you're working from a single branch, right? So you all have to collaborate together on that single branch. Maybe you have different branches for each person, but then pushing to some other branch that then gets pushed into another branch. It gets awkward. It gets awkward when you've got multiple people on it. Also, you don't want to have, you want to basically maximize the efficiency of the team, right? So if you've got a team of, say, 3 or 4 people and they're working on this one issue, right? You may have 2 people in there who are doing 60%, or why did I say 60%? 40% one of them, 60% on the other. And then you've got the other 3 people, I can't remember how many people I've mentioned, but whatever. The other people are just sort of sat there twiddling their thumbs and waiting to be told what to do. So you want to get to the point where you have just enough people to get the thing done in a timely manner. And yes, you still want to be kind of evaluating that. Maybe we need more people on this. Will this make it quicker? But that decision, I personally believe that decision should be left to the developers because they are more engaged with the issue or the feature, whatever they're building to get to the time frame. But this whole thing of swarming around a particular issue can actually make the time longer. But it's a per project thing, right? So more people working on a project means that the project will be done faster. That's not always the case. So I did say 5 misconceptions, but there's 7 there. So I'll just go through them quickly, just give you a rundown. Okay, so number one, you have to code every day to get better at it. No, you can't. You can code, you don't have to do that at all. Number two, women cannot code. Yes, they certainly can. Managers are sellouts who can't code. That's number three. No, they're not. Number four, you can't get into this industry when you're old. Yes, you certainly can. Number five, testing is only for developers who have time to test. That is not the case at all. Testing is for everybody. Number six, the fastest coder is the best coder. It certainly isn't the case. It is not a race. Number seven, more people working on a project means that the project will be done faster. Not at all. Well, in some cases it is, but it's not always the case. In some cases it actually slows it down. Anyway, they're my 7. If you've got any more, then do let me know. Contact me at howtocodewell.fm/contact, and I'll be really interested to hear if you've got any more, or if you've got any disagreements with those things. Let me know as well. Also, do feel free to put down your thoughts in the comments if you want it public as well. So this is a live one, and I am hoping that the next one will be live as well, but I'll let everybody know on Twitter at howtocodewell. Thank you ever so much for watching. Happy coding, everybody, and I'll see you again next time. Cheers. Bye bye.